I think the more that you can personalize and the more that you can infuse like really special little moments into somebody's vacation, whether it's like a handwritten note when they walk into the unit or something like that, maybe like a local bag of coffee or something, just reminding them how special it is to visit that specific area.
Welcome to the Vacation Rental Show. This is your essential playbook to grow and scale your vacation rental business with advice and insights from the best in the biz. I'm your host, Lynell Gordon. Today on the Vacation Rental Show, we're hanging out with Grace Souter. She's the Director of Digital Marketing at Inhabit. Grace has been in the vacation rental industry for over 15 years. She has experience with Blue Tent, Vacasa, and beyond. She knows the ins and outs of property management, guest relations, and of course, marketing. We're going to dive into how she's helping property managers keep up with all the changes that are happening in the industry, with what both big and small companies can do to grow their marketing efforts. Welcome, Grace.
Thank you so much, Lynell. I'm excited to be here.
So we have had a lot of changes, Grace, in our industry with regulations and acquisitions, consolidations, and they've really impacted the vacation rental industry. So what kind of adjustments do property managers have to make to maintain being competitive in their market with all these changes that are happening?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, there's a lot of things going on. A lot of property managers are retiring and they're ready to move on from their business. They might be looking to sell. So we've got new investors coming into this space and a lot of new faces. So that has been very exciting. And then, of course, we have a lot of regulations now showing up. So I think that's something we all need to be mindful of and keep our eye on. Doesn't matter which city we're in, if we already have regulations or not, chances are it will probably come our way at some point. And I guess it's just starting to kind of feel like it's no longer the Wild West. Like anytime something gets really big, it's time to put measures in place to make sure that it doesn't get out of control. And I think that's where we're at in the vacation rental industry. So yeah, I mean, specifically with regard to acquisitions, I think it's a good time to just be aware of your surroundings and whether it's you yourself that might be looking for an opportunity to acquire a business or maybe sell your business, or you could have a competitor in the space who might look like they're positioning to sell. Just kind of having your eyes up and being aware of how you might be able to capitalize on whatever situation might come up. And then for regulations, like I said, we all need to be paying attention no matter where we live or whatever is going on in our market. And a good way to prepare, I know I've heard this come up before on your podcast, is to team up with some other companies and businesses in your area and form some sort of like a committee or a group of people, an alliance maybe, that is specifically there to advocate for your community. And that could be due to short-term rental restrictions. It could be to some other thing we haven't even thought about yet. Where I live on the Outer Banks, I live on Hatteras Island, and access is a big issue for us here, as well as the health of our dunes. So that's something that I've been involved in for a long time with local property management companies to advocate for access here on Hatteras Island specifically. So there's a lot going on. I think how you prepare and how you position yourself probably has a lot to do with your goals for your company.
So when a vacation rental company is, say, less than 100 units, as opposed to a larger company like 1,000 units, how should their marketing strategy differ? Or does it?
Absolutely. You're going to be approaching things a lot differently when you're a small company. So when I was a small company here on the Outer Banks, we did a lot of storytelling, and it never felt like we were selling units. We were selling experiences, and any opportunity that we could be selling a local experience or talking about how unique we were and how different we were, and just infusing all of that flavor into our messaging, into our website, into all of our content. That was a really big focus. Relationships with local businesses was really important to us, not just because it was great to highlight them and show off who our community members were, but it was a really good way to maybe get some perks for our guests, like discounts or something like that. It was always a really fun part of the local strategy, and just trying to personalize as much as we could. As things get bigger and bigger, it's harder to always do that, but there was a lot of manual heavy lifting that went into it. And then as a company starts to grow, the messaging has to shift, first of all. You're no longer talking about how unique and different everything is, but you're actually trying to talk about how standardized everything is. And now we're a professional company. We're trying to build trust. We're trying to talk about our professional standards and that type of thing. So the message is a little bit different. A lot of newer companies, smaller companies, not all of them, are pretty heavily reliant on OTAs for their bookings, whereas a larger, more established company is driving direct bookings for sure. And all of their marketing strategy is specifically around that. But I think the biggest change is as you get bigger, it's really hard to personalize every touch point. So you have to start relying on automation. So that's my overview for that.
Let me ask you this. What role does branding play in marketing strategies for smaller companies versus really larger companies? And how can smaller companies ensure that their brand stands out in a very competitive market? You're in one of the most competitive markets in the United States on Hatteras Island and the Outer Banks. It's incredibly competitive all up and down the Outer Banks. So how can a small company stand out?
Great question. And you're right. We are one of the largest vacation rental companies in the world, I think. And it's very easy to be like, they're all the same. But I think back to the personalization, I think the more that you can personalize and the more that you can infuse like really special little moments into somebody's vacation, whether it's like a handwritten note when they walk into the unit or something like that, maybe like a local bag of coffee or something, just reminding them how special it is to visit that specific area. And being a storyteller, being an innkeeper is what we used to say. You're kind of the ambassador for your community in not just your operations, but in all of your marketing. When you start to become a larger company, you can't do that anymore. You don't have the bandwidth to put a handwritten note in everybody's check-in package. And you have to decide what's important to your company, what's important to your brand, and you have to do it extremely well. You need a system for everything and you need a process for everything. And you need to have consistency and you need experts in every area of your business.
So, in your experience, what are the biggest challenges faced by small vacation rental companies that are trying to scale their marketing efforts? And how do they overcome that as they grow?
Yeah, I think it's pretty common for small companies to have team members wearing a lot of different hats. And they might actually come into that marketing role not as a marketing expert at all, but as somebody who's just learning their way around the business and kind of just doing more like basic maintenance tasks. They might be updating the website. They might have decided to take on the social media or something. But I think as you start to grow and you start to scale and you start really looking at homeowner acquisition strategies, you start to recognize that you need to have a level of sophistication to your marketing. And you need to get very realistic about what your in-house team can do, what you might have to outsource as you're growing, and what you might have to just stop doing altogether. Maybe you can't do welcome bags anymore or something, and you'd like to take that money and put it into hiring a company like Blue Tent to help you do your marketing. The basic things that you need to keep in mind as you're starting to step out of that mom and pop phase, maybe into more of a sophisticated company. You absolutely must be optimizing your website for search engines, and you must be doing paid advertising. That's how people are going to find you up against some of these bigger competitors. And then you need to have the ability to reach your audience via email. I think that's super important and sometimes gets left behind. You need a marketing team. You no longer can be treating it like an afterthought. It can be challenging to add experts to a team and be paying full-time team members. Again, there are companies out there, Blue Tent is one of them, that can offer you that service without you having to take on the cost of a full-time employee. And you can still work with experts likely who have some familiarity with your market and who know the next move that you need to be taking.
I know that people can use AI to assist in marketing. Have you found any really good strategies for people to use AI in marketing?
Well, sure. I think, everyone initially probably goes to ChatGPT first and foremost. And how can I make writing my blogs faster, my unit descriptions? I think those are really easy, kind of low-hanging fruit. But I think it starts to get really exciting when you start looking at email specifically and personalizing those emails based on previous user behavior. Something like if somebody has come and previously declared a pet when they book their reservation, that segment of pet-friendly emails will now be hitting that guest. Same with automation. And I just think we're scratching the surface right now as far as what we're able to do. Moving forward, I think we're going to see a lot of super exciting developments with like reporting and integrating different data sets from this system to this system, not just giving you a report, but then also automating the insight that you can provide to a guest or that they can potentially provide to a homeowner. It starts to get really wild.
I love that. Yeah, it does. It's like a deep hole that doesn't end. You just can go down and down this rabbit hole. And it's pretty fabulous to think that we were doing automation in these things, and now there's AI that will automatically do it for you. It's going to save us so much time when we really get a hold of how we can use it in our businesses effectively. It's going to change the way that we do our marketing.
You're right. And you just think about how quickly that could potentially happen. It was 10 years ago in some places that we were still doing the printed unit book. And that was a whole production. It took a lot of time. You had deadlines of when you could have new units into your company so that they could make it into the book. And then those rates are locked in for the year. And now that we've got all of that online, it opened up this humongous world of opportunities with like great flexibility and length of stay. And it is just going to be unbelievable what AI is going to do to all of the data that we're able to have access to now.
When you think about 10 years ago, and you think about the fact that we would never have considered the fact that our rates can change all year long, they can change based on availability and based on demand, that our guest could not just stay a week, that there would be demand for smaller stays and midweek stays. And it's crazy to think 10 years ago what our mindset was. Now we think about what our mindset is today. I cannot imagine what the next 5 years holds, because I think things are changing exponentially now in a way that we can't even think about what it's going to look like in 5 years.
10 years ago, we were asking technology to do things that we were dreaming up. And now technology is showing us things and dreaming it up for us. It's so cool.
It's amazing. What kind of digital tools do property managers need to invest in to effectively manage and grow their marketing efforts at scale?
Yeah, well, obviously, you need a great PMS, a great property management system. As far as marketing, you need to be doing SEO. You need to be doing content in tandem with your SEO efforts and PPC strategies. And ideally, those are all working in concert with each other as part of one strategy. And then finally, a fully segmented and automated email platform that can integrate with your PMS, and you're going to be in really good shape.
This episode of the Vacation Rental Show is brought to you by Blue Tent. Blue Tent provides vacation rental pros with a powerhouse of services: direct booking optimization, strategic account management, email marketing, and channel management and distribution. All of your industry experts under one roof or inside one tent. Expand your digital footprint and turn browsers into local bookers at bluetent.com. So, Grace, you've had a really rewarding, impressive career in the vacation rental industry. What has been the most interesting project or initiative that you've worked on?
That's a good question. I've been involved in a lot of different things. Very early in my career here on the Outer Banks, I helped grow a business from scratch. And it was very challenging and humbling, but it taught me a lot of lessons. So I really enjoyed my time at Vacasa. To be honest, I met some of the most brilliant, smart people who thought differently, because a lot of them were not property managers and coming from that background. So it was really interesting for me to sometimes have to re-engineer the way I was thinking through a problem. So I really enjoyed that experience.
Growth is really interesting.
It is so interesting. And that's it. I think just over the course of 15 or 20 years, you make a lot of mistakes. And I think we learn way more from our mistakes than we learn from our successes. I always tell my kids who compete in surfing, and we always say it's not losing, it's learning. And there's always a lesson. So as far as like why I feel most rewarded now, I'm at a point in my career where like every time I walk into a problem, I can like go back through the archives of my brain and be like, no, there's a solution for this. You learned this lesson already. And it's really fun now to be able to like apply them.
As someone that has experience with both very small, building from nothing, and very large vacation rental companies, what advice would you give to property managers who are just starting out?
First off, I would say don't try to make everyone happy. If you're doing the right thing for the right reason, if it makes somebody mad, that's okay. Especially in the beginning, I know you just feel like you have to say yes to everything, and it's totally okay to say no. I think learning how to own your mistakes and thank people for the opportunity to learn from them is really important. I think you need to ask for help. Somebody told me once before I went to one of my first conferences, you might be surprised. You feel like you have so much to learn, but being in our market, we actually are a little bit farther ahead than some other markets. And I didn't realize that. So if you're in a market that's maybe not the Outer Banks and it's just starting to feel the wave of vacation rentals take over, I promise you there are experts out there who can help you and they would love to. So please reach out and ask for help. And the biggest thing I think I've taken away from the last 5 or 6 years specifically is that the people in your company who are on the front lines and out in the field, they really are your eyes and your ears. And you need to listen to them. They need to listen to what they're saying. And this really goes for any company, no matter what industry you're in. I think once you stop listening to them and you start listening to the people above you or maybe looking at a different agenda, you really lose your footing. So have some really good people around you and listen to them.
When you start your companies, often I'm told by entrepreneurs, I should have hired sooner. And I think it's really hard for us as entrepreneurs to take that first step because we're responsible for their payroll and you're responsible for their family, you're responsible for their life. There's just so much heavy responsibility that we have a tendency not to hire as soon as we need someone. Do you see that looking back over starting that vacation rental company?
Yes, absolutely. You need help. You can't do it by yourself. And you need people to tell you that you're doing it wrong. That's okay. That's why you hire good friends. That's why you work with people you can be honest with.
Absolutely. And I love the fact that you talk about failures are our best learning experiences because they are. They totally are. And I think once you've been in a business and running it for a long time, you recognize the fact. I remember advice given to me when I was just starting out my company, and someone said to me, just make a decision. You're going to make bad decisions, Lynell, but not making a decision is making a decision. So being decisive and learning to just make that decision, it's huge for starting out as an entrepreneur. So there's my advice. As someone that has a rich background in digital marketing, Grace, how do you stay inspired and keep up with all the changes that are happening in the industry?
That's a good question. And I know I'm probably supposed to say that I follow everyone on LinkedIn and I just suck it all up. And that's part of it. But I've really stayed in touch with a lot of people that I work with and that I have worked with over the years. And they're all in different places now. There's a lot of them are still up and down the Outer Banks. I have a lot of friends out in Oregon, starting to learn new, different companies out that way. I have a few friends now working with Steve Schaub. And I do have a couple of friends who've started their own companies. So I think it's like keeping up with all of them and hearing how the changes are affecting them and their decisions and their companies. It's just interesting and it's really motivating to kind of keep at it and keep learning. And like we've talked about, there's so many things coming at us right now. It's just a super exciting time to be here.
It really is. I'm very excited about the forward momentum and the things that are happening at Inhabit. I love what's happening at Streamline. I'm so excited about that. And I'm excited to see all the new things at Streamline Summit. I'm really excited about that too. Listen, really cool fact, guys. And I know we've mentioned it, but Grace lives in the Outer Banks. She lives on Hatteras Island, which is a very remote part of North Carolina. Grace, what are the unique difficulties that you find with where you live? You're in a huge tourist area. I mean, most of the houses around you are going to be vacation rentals. So what kind of unique challenges do you face there in the Outer Banks? We just had this huge storm that I was really concerned about the waves. What do you guys deal with? Tell everybody how you deal with that.
Yeah, obviously access, I think, is currently one of the biggest things that we are always concerned about. And we have some issues now along the southern end of Buxton. So beach erosion is just a constant battle that we're always going to be fighting.
And you have one way in and one way out. If you're driving, there's one road, Highway 12. How big are the Outer Banks? How many miles from the top of Duck or way up there all the way down?
200 about. Oh, maybe I lied. It might be 100.
It's a long way. It takes 2.5 hours to get from one end to the other, right? If I was going to go from Hatteras to Duck, it's a very unique market with a lot of unique features. It's incredibly beautiful. And I know everybody deals with beach erosion. You guys deal with beach erosion on a whole new level. I saw an article yesterday that was a national article, and it said, why does the Outer Banks have so many hurricanes? And I mean, of course, it's because of where it sits. It sits way out in the ocean. Some of my best friends live there. So I get to visit, but you guys are brave, very brave to live there.
It's an interesting place to live. And the reality is, my husband and I talk about this all the time. It does feel like a dream come true to live here. And there's a little piece of you, no matter who you are, that lives here that knows that it could go away anytime. Any storm could be the one that takes it all away. So I think that people who live here have like a very deep appreciation for where we live. Even my kids who are pretty young sometimes will be driving home or driving over the bridge and they'll say, gosh, it's so pretty. I can't believe we live here. And they've never lived anywhere else, so they don't know. But there's an appreciation that kind of resonates through our communities. And there's also a recognition that other people want to share it with us. So I think it's challenging when a storm comes and we're dealing with like roads not quite open, maybe businesses aren't quite ready. And in some cases in the past, we've had water in our homes and they're still letting guests back on the island. So you got to put your smile on no matter how hard it is. But when you live somewhere this special, I think that you know deep down it's something you got to share.
I love that. And I actually love the Outer Banks. I took my husband for the first time to the Outer Banks this past year. And it really is extraordinary. And coming over those bridges and just looking, you just can't believe that North Carolina is that beautiful and that special. So
Where do you live, Lynell?
I live between Dallas part of the time, I live in Israel part of the time, and I live in North Carolina at Holden Beach. That's my home. So it's 5 hours for me to drive from my house to the Outer Banks. But the better way to go, if you're going to go to the Outer Banks, my favorite way is to hit the ferries all the way up. You can start out, probably Cedar Island it's a great way. You can drive up there and take that ferry over to Hatteras. It's just stunning. Over to Ocracoke and then from Ocracoke over to Hatteras. It's a really amazing, incredible, beautiful place. It's a great place for drones. There's a lot of places you can't, so you have to be careful. But it's a great place to take photography, nature photography of maritime forest. I grew up at the beach. And when I grew up on the beach, we did have maritime forest at Holden Beach. It was before all the lots had been cleared and everywhere. So, I mean, I remember when we had dunes that were 4 stories high. And in the winter, we would go down to the bottom of those. And it's so hot there. Even in the winter, it's hot there because it blocks all the wind and it keeps the sun. And we'd lay out year round there when I was a kid. So,
Did people always ask you what the winter was like?
yeah, I think. And I mean, we live in a tourist area too. And growing up in a tourist area, you appreciate the fact that's where a lot of your income is coming from. Like I was cleaning houses to go to college, and that's a lot of money on the weekends. It's still a lot of money on the weekends. And then when I was 14 years old, I started working at a seafood restaurant that I could ride my bike to. And I was making $100 a night then. That's been a long time ago, guys. So I grew up appreciating tourism and just loving the fact that we can share, like you say, these beautiful white sandy beaches. It's white sand at Holden Beach. It was just, I remember we moved there from Korea. I think I was 11. And I remember saying to my mother when we drove there, I said, how can there be snow and it's so hot outside? And my mom said to me, well, no, that's sand. And I was like, what? Because I was used to snow everywhere. It's an incredibly beautiful place we have a lot of live oaks in our area, and we still have beautiful maritime forests still in places. I just bought some lots, not on the beach, but on the waterway side that had those incredible oaks and all the Spanish moss. And I just love to look at that. I think it's pretty. So there you go. Well, thank you, Grace, so much. We know so many of the same people, and yet I don't remember hanging out before.
I know. Maybe once at some point, but it's been a long time for sure.
Yeah, probably at a conference. But other than that, see, I knew your name immediately when it came up. I was like, oh, yeah, she lives in the Outer Banks. She did this, she did that, she did that.
Yeah, I worked with Holly and Amy.
We know each other. We have all the same friends. Our industry is so small. But guys, if you want to reach out to Grace and talk to her about marketing or talk to her about your company that's starting or any issues that you're having, Grace, would you be willing for them to reach out to you?
Absolutely. My email address is grace.souter@bluetent.com, and I would love to hear from you.
And it's Souter, guys. So please reach out to her if you have marketing questions. She's been doing it so long. She knows an enormous amount and can really help you guys as you grow. So thanks for being here.
Thank you so much. It's so good to see you.
I hope we'll see you at Streamline.
I'm not going to Streamline, but I'll be at Verma.
I'll see you at Verma then.
Perfect. I can't wait.
This episode of the Vacation Rental Show was brought to you by Blue Tent. To find out more about how Blue Tent can help grow your vacation rental business, visit bluetent.com. Make sure to search for the Vacation Rental Show in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube, or anywhere else podcasts are found, and hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. On behalf of the team here at Inhabit, thanks for listening.